Now, it was just announced that the Miami Dolphins will be bringing back head coach Mike McDaniel and general manager Chris Grier for another season. And I know this probably frustrates a lot of the fan base. I know if you were to take a poll, I would say there's probably 95% of the fan base wanted Chris Grier gone. And I understand their reasoning and the frustration. He's been in the organization a long time. He's really been the head decision maker since 2019, and we have not won a playoff game in that span. So I understand the frustration, but I also, if you've listened to my content, specifically, I stream a lot on TikTok, so people from there have a more understanding of what my take on was this, and I'm not really against what the Miami Dolphins just did, and I'm going to explain that in this video. So, breaking it all down, I think a lot of the shortcomings people want to pin on Chris Grier, which once again, he is the head decision maker, so technically he is responsible for all the decisions. But what I appreciate about Chris Grier is he is a head coach's GM. He gets what the head coach wants. He gets what the defensive coordinator wants. Like, he shops for the groceries that the coordinators and the head coach want. So I think an important thing from a general manager perspective is getting the players that your coaches want and having cohesion between that. And once again, I'm sure there's pushback between oh, we want this player, and they're able to come to common ground. I think that was the whole reason Brian Flores got fired, was he was trying to take complete control, and it's like Grier is trying to get the players that you want. So we really don't try and fit square pegs into round holes, and I think that's a good thing, having cohesion at the top. All of the best teams in the league have that, between KC, Baltimore, they're in alignment from the GM and head coaching spot, and I think that's the most important thing. So having that relationship intact, I think, is a good thing. And once again, I understand the frustration, but I'm going to break that all down. Once again, Chris Grier hasn't hit on every draft pick, but I would say if you go through it trying to be as unbiased as possible, I think he's probably at, or if not above, league average in terms of hit rate in the draft. I mean, you want to start in his first draft. So he basically, how Chris Grier came to be. He was obviously a scout, worked his way up to director of scouting. My understanding is that in 2016 he had full charge of the draft, and then in 2019 he had full executive power between draft and free agency and all of that. So starting in 2016 draft, Larry Tunsil. 2017 Charles Harris, bust. 2018 Minkah Fitzpatrick, all pro bowler. 2019 Christian Wilkins just signed a $100 million deal, very good player. 2020 Tua. Obviously, there's the ups and downs, but I would overall consider that a hit. Austin Jackson, it took some time, but he's been a hit. Noah Igbenogany, bust. In the second round, he got Robert Hunt, who signed to a massive contract, as well as Raekwon Davis, who signed a pretty solid deal to the Colts. Once again, they aren't retained as Miami Dolphins, but they're quality players. In the third round, he took Brandon Jones, so on and so forth. I think overall he's done a good job drafting. If you want to look as recent as this past offseason, I think he had a great offseason. I think the one mistake he made was not bringing back Andrew Van Ginkel. But if you look at it, I mean, we signed Jordan Brooks, who's been an absolute stud for us. Jonnu Smith, stud. Aaron Brewer, stud. Calais Campbell, stud. Obviously, there's been some misses. And once again, I think where this team really fell apart was at the tackle and edge position. And I think he had a quality plan in place to address those positions. Obviously, the Dolphins went into the season with Teron Armstead and Austin Jackson as your starting tackles. Both are good tackles. Obviously, Teron Armstead, is going to miss time. As a backup plan, we drafted Teron Armstead's replacement in Patrick Paul in the second round, and when he's gotten reps, he's been good. They also brought back Kendall Lamb, who was a quality swing tackle for us in the past, and when he was on the field, he was good. Unfortunately, Austin Jackson missed the entire season after the Bills game with injury. Teron Armstead suffered his injuries that you expect. Kendall Lamb also went up and down with injuries. So you're really battling between that tackle play, and they use the tackles to help make up for the poor guard play. Once again, I think that needs to be addressed, and that there's no excuses to be had. In my opinion, though, once again, as I explained, Chris Grier is a coach's GM. He gets the groceries his head coach wants. I guarantee you, Mike McDaniel, and you can see it with how the Dolphins approached this past offseason, which, once again, they need to improve. But the Dolphins went out and spent most of their resources getting more skill players and not building the guard position, because Mike McDaniel believes through the scheme he can overcome that poor guard play and make up for it with the quick release and how the run game is when they run off the ball. It's not like a traditional pass set like most NFL teams run. Once again, I think they need to address the guard position. So I don't want to say, but I'm saying I think the reason that happened was because of what Mike McDaniel wanted, and I think that needs to change. But I appreciate having the cohesion between the general manager and the head coach, And then the last reason why I'm not against this move is overall, you just look at the outlook. I think 2025 season, put up or shut up. I know people wanted to view this season as that case, but I think it's just easier to do it organizationally because guess what? Even if you fire Chris Grier, you're really not going to, realistically, Mike McDaniel should not be fired. So you're hiring a new GM for a head coach that he didn't hand select, and then next year you probably fire the head coach, and then it's a new head coach, and then the head coach wants to it's just messy. So I prefer going to 2025. If expectations are not met, clear cut, fire both GM Chris Grier and head coach Mike McDaniel, head into that following offseason with a new slate, let the GM pick his head coach, and you're a year closer to the out into his contract to really allow the new regime to put their impact on what they want organizationally at the most important position and at the head coach. So I think just it makes more sense to allow them to run one full year back, and if they don't meet expectations, you completely clean house. And just from a salary cap perspective, the Tua contract, the new regime would be able to have more of an impact than if they were just to take over the team this offseason. So that's why I'm actually pretty happy with the decision to have the cohesion. There obviously needs to be improvement, specifically invest in the offensive line, and we need to do something, whether it's training staff, players, or something to remain more healthy. But I don't think this team is poorly built. I think this offseason, there's going to be more videos about needs and whatnot, but the Dolphins definitely have needs, but they're at non-premium positions. A lot of the premium positions are locked up long-term, and I think you can build around a lot of those cornerstones. I know Tua has been up and down, but Tua is when on the field, an elite quarterback. You have Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. The whole fiasco just happened that I haven't even addressed, but I would like to trade Tyreek Hill. You still have Jalen Waddle. You still have Malik Washington. You still have Jonnu Smith. You still have Devon Achane. You still have a lot of weapons. Replace Tyreek Hill with a bigger body, number 2 receiver. Build up the run. Change your offensive identity to be a run-first team, similar to the offense Mike McDaniel was in when we hired him in San Francisco. Run heavy. Obviously, the play-action pass off of it. Simplify this offense. And once again, change your identity to that gritty 49er run scheme. And then defensively, if you can keep Anthony Weaver, tremendous. I think he did a great job. There's just, with the nature of the contracts, there's going to be a lot of overhaul on the defensive side of the football. But once again, you still have Zach Sealer. You have Chop Robinson. You have Jalen Phillips coming back from injury, who hopefully is good. Jordan Brooks was a tremendous signing. You have Jalen Ramsey. So you still have a lot to build with on the defensive side of the football. So once again, I understand this is not what a lot of fans wanted, but it's the situation, and I really don't hate it. If they fail expectations, then you clean house next year and let everybody start fresh and basically allow them to pick their quarterback as well. And I think just organizationally, that's more sound. Sound off in the comments down below. I appreciate everybody for watching. Like and subscribe to help the channel grow. I will be with you all offseason breaking down my thoughts on what the Dolphins should do this offseason. Fins up.